I don't buy a lot of digital titles on console. I prefer to have a physical collection, as I like the way it looks collecting dust on my shelves, and when the digital storefronts inevitably go offline forever, who's to say you'll ever be able to play the game again? This week's game is a digital-only game, which may have been one of the very first digital PSN games that I had ever purchased. That game is Moondiver, a 2D action game that feels like it would be at home in an arcade cabinet. The story of Moondiver is, well, I have no friggin' clue. It's presented in still shots with the portraits of characters just scrolling into view, and the text on the screen is minimal. It has something to do with some evil guy that has the power to breathe life into inanimate objects, and he hates humans because they're evil. So he's planning on wiping them out to start over with his own superior species. These Moondivers appear to try to save the day because they allegedly have a peace treaty with the human race on Earth or something. I had to read all this from a wiki because the game doesn't present it very well, but oh well. The gameplay is a bit easier to understand, and if you've ever played the classic arcade game Strider, you will probably feel right at home. And that's because the designer worked on both games, calling it a spiritual sequel of sorts. You run around fairly linear levels, slashing your sword at anything that crosses your path. You can jump, double jump, climb on most walls, climb on most ceilings, but you can't swim. If you ever fall down a pit of any kind, you'll simply respawn nearby where you fell in with a bit of health damage accumulated. Obviously, if you're low on life, you'll die, and if you die, you start at the beginning of the stage, which might suck because a lot of the levels are actually fairly lengthy. At times, the screen will lock in place and you'll have to defeat every enemy that appears in order to move on. Sometimes the stage will end this way, and other times you'll have to face a boss. The bosses do have large health gauges, but most are fairly easy to defeat, at least once you learn their attack patterns. One thing to keep an eye out for are orbs of varying colors. Blue orbs gain you some magic power, green ones replenish some of your lost life, and yellow ones are special abilities that you'll unlock once collecting them. These abilities are called Moonsault Combinations, because they can be combined with any fellow players that you are partied up with to make them stronger. The way that it works is that most of these moonsaults can be used individually, at lower power levels. Some, however, have a minimum and maximum player limit, meaning you have to have a certain amount of players in-game in order to use them. Typically, the most powerful of these skills will require a full 4-man party. These moonsault combos can wipe out the entire screen or do hefty damage to a boss, but they aren't necessarily required to complete the game. In fact, when playing Moondiver for this review, I was reduced to playing it solo, which was fine. I still enjoyed it, and the way I survived was due to the level up system. In addition to all of the special abilities, you get to choose between 5 different Moondivers. Each one has its own starting stats, and as you play and defeat enemies, you'll earn experience points. Once you earn enough, you'll level up, clearing the screen and giving yourself an upgrade point, which can be put into HP, MP, or strength of your attacks at the end of the stage. It's completely up to you how you level up your characters, and if you mess up badly, there is an option to clear your progress, but that should really be used as a last resort, as I believe it does reset every character, not just one of them. I didn't try it though, so I didn't confirm this. In addition to standard stats, most characters, other than maybe one, can only swipe their sword one time before needing to reset their attack again. At certain levels, you'll earn an attack combo up, which means that instead of doing swipe, wait, you can now attack more than one time in a row. This is important because there's going to be more attacking than pausing, allowing you to get more hits in at the enemies. Otherwise, you might need to use some hit and run tactics in order to clear screens without taking too much damage. One advantage you have, though, is that by defeating 50 enemies, you'll earn a bonus for maxing out your health and magic. This happens for every 50 enemies in a row that you defeat, as long as the combo gauge as shown doesn't disappear. So speed attacking may not necessarily be a bad idea if you are low on life but are at 48 kills or so. The music of the game is actually pretty good, but sadly, there's not a lot of it. Stages do repeat music, and there's only 12 levels, so there's really no reason why there couldn't have been separate tracks for each act. As for sound effects, they are normal ha's every time you swipe the sword, anime-like striking sounds, etc. Nothing amazing. The visuals, again, not bad, but the color palette is pretty drab, which is to be expected since you're essentially running around a destroyed version of America, along with a spaceship. There's a really cool waterfall area where you have to jump from box to box, and that looks pretty amazing. But it's really the only graphical area that I thought was pretty nifty. Everything else just looked fine. I couldn't get to the final third of the game for one reason. This game is pretty damn hard. Normal grunts aren't so bad, but a lot of the other enemies can give you trouble. The flying insects will drop you like a stone when they hit you. The yellow-clad soldiers will literally explode like a Bomberman-laid bomb if you don't use a moonsault or charge shot to wipe them from the screen. And the laser turrets? F those. Seriously, they are incredibly difficult to dodge. They take a decent amount of shots before being destroyed, and they dish out some insane amounts of damage, often wiping you out in 2 seconds if you are low leveled, or even taking out a quarter of your life if you are fairly strengthened up. Your best bet is to bum rush them, dash past the beam, and just lay it on thick. If there are 2 of them gunning you down, well, good luck. Moondiver isn't a bad game at all, and I had a lot of fun for the few hours I spent with it, but it's too difficult for its own good if you're going to solo it like I was. I played with my pal Johnny years ago when we first bought the game, and it's easier then because your partners can save you when you fall if they are quick enough. The game isn't available on the PSN store for at least the PS4, and I can't verify whether it's available on the PS5 since I don't own one yet, but I do believe it's still available on Xbox Live, although I'm too lazy to turn it on and confirm this. If you are a fan of Strider, you'll probably get some enjoyment out of Moondiver. If you're not, this one may still tickle your fancy, depending on your gaming preferences. I would really recommend playing with friends if possible, or prepare for a rough solo experience that's still enjoyable at times. Final score? 5 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.